has this kind of, utility to it, right? Which other forms of art don't, or other forms of expression don't, right? So like music, people only listen to music for enjoyment, or they create music for enjoyment, right? And so when people turn on a song, they're not concerned with anything other than essentially feeling better, or maybe there's like a certain ephemeral knowledge that can be accessed through music and stuff.
But you don't think transcendence can be achieved through listening to music?
No, I think it can be. But you are the one who banned it. No, I think you can. No, what I'm saying is that music doesn't have the baggage that language does have. So language has a utility. It's not just about pleasure. We don't only use language to read and write poetry. We use it to write shopping lists. We use it to write legal documents. We use it with our accountant. Yeah, everything. Yeah. So with this kind of way of using language, we have like built into this sort of thing a need for sense, or a need for like logic and understanding to happen within it, because we use it for such practical bases. And just like now, we're doing this in language, even though based on our very like elegantly refined timbres, there is a musicality to our speech. But I think that just makes people very confused. They don't know what they're listening for, because there's so much meaning associated with every word that they're just used to anything with language to mean something. Whereas people don't put that kind of pressure on music, because they just art, right? or on painting or anything
or drawing. Yeah, that's true. So why do you think we put so much meaning on language? Because we use it for such practical purposes.
Yeah. But so that's why I think nonsense is great, and that's why I love poetry, and I think poetry is so good, because it creates sort of inbuilt mechanisms within language to transcend itself through language, right? So you're kind of using things like metaphor and paradoxes. It's like an anti-language language, and in that sense, it's a nonsense, because through that sort of nonsense, when we say something like it's hot and it's cold or whatever, that's a paradox which it doesn't make sense. Like within the logical frameworks of language, it doesn't make sense. So a poem will use something like that to kind of create this self-combustion of language, in which this space is given. It's like, you find the word gives birth to the unword and creates a space in which the ineffable can lie.
But do you think that's limited to poetry? Or do you think one can achieve that in spoken word? Can we achieve that just in normal conversation?
I think, we can
not
achieve that. No. Yeah, I mean, when I say poetry is just like a sort of mechanism of language that can be used in any way. I mean, you could do poetic accounting if you want, right?
Could you though?
Yeah, I think you could, but the HMRC wouldn't be so happy. It's like, what dumbass mystic wrote this shit? Right?
Also, who would hire a poetic accountant? Oh, we would.
Yeah, we
would definitely would.
We would.
Yeah. Actually, if anyone knows a poetic accountant, we could definitely use one.
Yeah, for sure. And also, if anybody wants to send us podcast equipment in jail,
we could do that.
But yeah, so I think.
So do you think we can access that in a normal conversation?
I think we do, and that's why we have this affinity to nonsense. We try and move towards that sort of realm.
We try and use language for unpractical purposes.
Yeah, for unpractical purposes, and I think this happens in close relationships between people. You start using language in a way which doesn't have a utility, but there is a utility to it. But the utility is intimacy. So you're actually discussing things which have no utility in order to facilitate a closeness and a deepness of being, because you're talking about things which and the greatest relationships we have, the actual relationship lacks a utility, right? Your close friends, you're not friends with them for a reason. You're just friends. It's just the absence of reason that makes you so close.
Yeah, it's very true. And you won't necessarily be speaking practical stuff to them anymore, or logic to them anymore.
You were.
I won't. But
I won't. But I don't know if we ever started in that way. We never really started speaking logical. But I think maybe other people start speaking logical and then move towards. No, but I think most people do speak in a logical framework,
That's very true.
But then they
Especially when
speak
you're
less
initially meeting someone, right?
utilitarianly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, the questions are not like actually to build up a knowledge-based picture of somebody, like where do you come from, what do you do, da 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 da. They're more about like learning mannerisms of the person's being.
So if we're aware of that and we're aware of our affinity to nonsense, can we not speak nonsense within a logical framework?
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. It's about. I don't think it's about within the logical framework, but it's using logical structures in a nonsensical manner so that we create a symbiosis between nonsense and sense, so that it creates this holistic view of the world, which combines these two ideas. I mean, for me, that's the goal. To like, this is like the idea of a perfect sentence. It's something that is rational,
But also irrational.
and irrational.
Yeah.
No,
No, I really like that. I feel like that's a good ending as well.
Yeah.
And maybe people can let us know if we are simultaneously rational and irrational.
Yeah, and if this is complete nonsense, yeah, I guess let us know. It's not really going to help.
No,
Maybe you should
see
just
that as positive
yeah.
feedback.
So just tell us it's sense, and we'll change things.
Yes.
A little bit to adapt your yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, time for washing up.
Exactly.